All right, let's dive back into the world of Brandon and his battle against the forces of HOA-fueled tyranny. Forget the leisurely coffee sips and descriptive mornings. We're cutting straight to the tension, the dialogue, and the escalating madness. Here's the first chapter, dripping with the flavor of a rising storm. Chapter 1, The Signal and the Storm. The moment I saw the name NotForKaren911 blaze across my Wi-Fi list, a cold knot tightened in my gut. It wasn't the name itself. That was a calculated jab, a small victory in a war of escalating absurdity. It was the knowledge, the certainty that Karen, across the dusty divide, was seeing it too. Through the window of her meticulously manicured house, I saw the familiar contortion of her face, the tight lips, the narrowed eyes, the furious silent pronouncements. It was a performance I'd come to dread and, I admit, sometimes find darkly amusing. But today the amusement curdled. She was moving, not just pacing on her porch like a territorial hawk, but marching. Straight towards my fence line, Tank, my loyal Rhodesian Ridgeback, let out a low growl, a rumble that vibrated through the worn floorboards of my kitchen. His ears were pricked, sensing the shift in the air, the charged energy of impending conflict. I stood barefoot, mid-toast, the mundane suddenly shattered by the frantic, aggressive pounding on my front door. Bang. Bang, bang. It wasn't a polite knock. It was a declaration of war, delivered with the force of a battering ram. I sighed, the taste of burnt toast suddenly bitter in my mouth. There was no doubt who it was. I opened the door to a woman radiating righteous fury. Her face was a mask of indignation, a fiery red against the crisp white of her blouse. The dreaded HOA badge, a symbol of her self-appointed authority, gleamed on her chest like a misplaced medal. "Did you rename your Wi-Fi that just to mock me?" she demanded, her voice tight with suppressed rage. I stared at her, fighting the urge to smirk. "Well, Karen," I said slowly, letting the name hang in the air, "if the Wi-Fi name fits..." "Don't play games with me, Brandon," she snapped, stepping closer. "You're a member of this neighborhood now, whether you like it or not, and we share resources in this community." "Let me stop you right there," I said, holding up a hand, cutting her off. "I'm not a member of the HOA. I own this ranch, bought it outright. And the last time I checked, Wi-Fi wasn't exactly a shared resource." "You're being selfish," she barked, her voice rising. "My grandson is visiting, and your signal reaches our house. It's the strongest network in the whole area and it's password protected. Why? Because it's mine." She took another step, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, as if revealing a top-secret plan. "I'm going to report you to the HOA board." That's when I smiled, a genuine, unforced smile that I knew would infuriate her. "Go ahead," I said, my voice calm. "I'm not under your board. In fact, you're the ones trespassing every time you step over that fence." Karen's mouth dropped open, her carefully constructed facade crumbling. "You're going to regret this, Brandon," she hissed, her eyes blazing. "You think this is funny now, but you're poking the wrong bear." She spun on her heel, her dusty orthopedic sandals kicking up a small cloud of dirt as she stormed away, muttering like a cartoon villain whose plan had just been foiled. I watched her go, one hand on my hip, the other scratching Tank's head. But the feeling of victory was short-lived. A chill snaked down my spine. That strange blip on my network logs, the repeated attempts to access my signal. This wasn't just a nosy neighbor. This was something more. And as Karen's retreating figure vanished behind her fence, I had a chilling premonition. This was only the beginning. The signal had been sent and the storm was just gathering. The chill wasn't just from the receding figure of Karen. It was the sudden, unsettling realization that the blips on my network logs weren't random attempts. They were targeted, persistent. Someone wasn't just trying to borrow my Wi-Fi. They were trying to get in. And Karen's outburst, her frantic insistence on shared resources, suddenly felt less like a demand and more like a cover. Later that morning, the proof arrived, tucked into my mailbox, not a friendly note but a printed ultimatum. "We've observed illegal broadcasting activity from your property. Turn off your Wi-Fi tower immediately. HOA Communications Enforcement. Illegal broadcasting? My antenna was perfectly legal. This wasn't an official document, it was a threat, poorly disguised but menacing nonetheless. The lack of a logo, contact info, it screamed amateur hour, but the message was clear. They were escalating. That evening, the escalation became physical. My security cameras, the ones monitoring the far corners of the ranch, blinked offline. Not a glitch, not a power surge. They were cut. For 2 agonizing hours, I was blind. Then my smart thermostat went dark. My garage door, linked to the network, refused to open when I returned from a quick trip to town. Someone wasn't just messing with my signal. They were messing with my life. I rebooted the system, the digital equivalent of a frantic breath. The logs confirmed my fear. A manual interference attempt. Right there, time-stamped, chillingly precise. I checked the outdoor cameras again, the ones that were still functioning. And then I saw it. A blurry figure, moving through the fence line at 3:14 a.m. Not just a figure. A shadow, carrying something. A laptop, an antenna. The image was grainy, but as I zoomed in, a detail leaped out, stark and undeniable. The shoes. White, bulky, orthopedic sandals. Karen. She had crossed the line. Not just the fence, not just the boundary between our properties. She had crossed the line from irritating neighbor to outright intruder. And in that moment, the rules changed. This wasn't about Wi-Fi anymore. This was about my home, my security, my peace. And Karen, in her relentless pursuit of control, had just opened the door to a game I was far better equipped to play. Signal had been sent. The storm was here, and I was ready to meet it. I didn't go to the sheriff that morning. Not yet. Confronting Karen, showing her the grainy footage of her midnight trespass in those damning orthopedic sandals, that would be a waste of time, a predictable move. Karen thrived on predictable. Instead, I sat on my porch, the rising sun warming my face, Tank's head resting on my foot. I opened my laptop, a slow, deliberate smile spreading across my face. I changed the Wi-Fi name again. This time it wasn't just a jab. It was an accusation. Karen trespassed 911. Within 20 minutes, the predictable sound of a screen door slamming echoed across the quiet morning. Karen was out, phone in hand, pacing on her porch like a cornered animal. I watched her from my seat, the distance, amplifying her frantic energy. She squinted at her phone at the list of available networks. She saw it. The accusation, hanging in the digital air. She froze. Then a sound that ripped through the morning quiet. A scream. Not of fear, but of pure, unadulterated rage. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. Defamation. I caught that one. That afternoon, the certified letter arrived. HOA Communications Committee. Again. But this one was worse. A pathetic attempt at officialdom. A badly copied watermark and a chilling threat in bold letters. You are hereby instructed to cease broadcasting offensive wireless signals. Further violations will result in HOA-imposed penalties and internet disconnection. Disconnection. They were threatening to cut me off. I wasn't in their HOA. They had no authority. But they were trying to scare me, to bully me into submission. I locked my gates, updated my systems. And then I went to town. I bought a new router, a beast of a machine with military-grade encryption. I set up hidden networks, invisible to the casual scan. But for Karen, I created something special. A public network, no password. Free Wi-Fi for HOA Karens. It didn't connect to the internet. It rerouted anyone who tried to use it to a single page. Oops. Looks like you should have stayed in your own lane. That night I waited. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I was tired of being the target. If Karen wanted a war over Wi-Fi, I was going. To make sure she regretted ever scanning for my signal. But the situation, as it always did with Karen, escalated. At 2:37 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion alert. Back gate. I opened the app and my blood ran cold. It wasn't just Karen. 2 other figures. HOA board members. I recognized them from the neighborhood meetings I'd avoided. They were by my antenna, tower, flashlights cutting through the dark. One of them held what looked like wire cutters, tampering with private communications infrastructure. A federal offense. I zoomed in, my finger hovering over the microphone button connected to my outdoor speakers. I pressed it. Calmly, clearly, my voice boomed through the night. "Step away from the tower or I'll call the sheriff. You're on camera." They scattered like startled deer, tripping over the gravel, curses echoing in the darkness. Karen screamed, "It's not fair," as they retreated. I called the sheriff anyway. Deputy Rollins arrived the next morning, his face a picture of weary resignation. "This whole town's been complaining about that woman since 13, he drawled, watching the footage. "You got every right, Brandon. I'll file a trespass notice. Have a little talk with the HOA boys." "Will it stop her?" I asked, knowing the answer. He chuckled humorlessly. "Probably not, but next time she steps foot on your land we'll be pressing charges." The peace lasted less than a day. While I was fixing an irrigation pipe, my phone pinged. Unauthorized access attempt. Facial match guarantee. I dropped my wrench and ran. She was gone by the time I reached the house, but taped to my front door. A flyer, bright pink, HOA standard paper. One sentence in bold black marker. "You will not win. This is our neighborhood." Karen wasn't alone anymore. She'd weaponized the HOA. And if they were willing to trespass, threaten, and vandalize, it was time to fight back. Not with shouting, but with exposure. Embarrassment. I had a hidden network feature, one that tracked unauthorized connection attempts. I activated the logs, time to collect some names, but then the real blow. That evening, my internet died. Completely. Not a glitch. Not a software issue. The fiber line, the one connecting my home to the digital world, was severed. Cleanly. A precision cut, sabotage. This wasn't about Wi-Fi anymore. This was about cutting me off. Isolating me. Karen had crossed the final line. I stood there staring at the severed cable, a broken snake in the dust. Tank whined at my side. No Wi-Fi, no data. They'd cut me off. My only option, town. I drove to the diner, the one with the cloud-like pancakes and coffee that could wake the dead. Nancy, the owner, raised a brow. "Brandon, you look like you wrestled a thundercloud. Can I borrow your Wi-Fi?" Once connected, I unleashed everything. The trespass footage, the sabotage attempts, the fake letters, the router logs, a photo of the severed line. I sent it all to Deputy Rollins, the sheriff, and the local news station. Then the final touch. I posted the Karen-themed Wi-Fi name and the trespass footage on Reddit, in the HOA Fails subreddit. HOA Karen demanded my Wi-Fi password, so I renamed it. Now she's vandalizing my property. Advice? It blew up. Thousands of upvotes, hundreds of comments, stories of HOA horrors, legal advice, even offers of help. And then, the call. Channel 3 Action News. "We saw your Reddit post. Can we come by tomorrow?" I nearly dropped the phone. Absolutely. The next morning, Karen, resplendent in a bright red pantsuit, was screaming at a news van parked outside her house. The HOA president, Mr. Larkin, arrived, wiping sweat from his bald head. They were panicking, and I hadn't said a word yet. The easier. News crew came to my ranch. I showed them everything, the footage, the notes, the severed cable. The cameraman shook his head. "This is going viral, dude." By sunset, the story aired. Local rancher battles HOA over Wi-Fi, claims sabotage. Karen's voice yelling, "You don't belong here," was the chilling backdrop. I thought it was over. But the next morning, a legal envelope was taped to my gate. A cease and desist letter from the HOA's law firm. Remove everything, apologize, or face a lawsuit for harassment, slander, public humiliation. And then, the kicker. They were scheduling an emergency board meeting, not to resolve the issue, to vote on annexing my property into the HOA district. They were trying to steal my land. I called Deputy Rollins. "Sheriff, they're trying to take my ranch." He sighed. You got a minute? There's something you need to see. He showed me the complaints Karen had filed against me. Noise, zoning, even claiming my Wi-Fi tower caused headaches. She's building a paper trail, he said, trying to make you look like a problem. Can she win? Only if you stop fighting. Wasn't stopping. I filed a petition with the town hall not just to block the annexation, but to investigate Karen and the HOA for abuse of power, harassment, illegal surveillance. I'd found footage of Rick, the HOA treasurer, droning over my property. I submitted it all. When I walked into the stuffy HOA meeting, the air went out of the room. Karen stood at the front, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. I walked to the podium, a USB drive in my hand. I'd like to submit this to the record. Private meeting, Karen snapped. No speaking rights. Actually, I said, plugging in the drive, I'm here as a citizen whose rights are being trampled, and I have the sheriff's signed permission to speak. Oh, and Channel 3 is waiting outside. The screen lit up. Footage of Karen trespassing. The sabotage attempt. One figure sprayed blue. Rick's drone footage. Gasps filled the room. Karen turned beet red. Outrageous, you set us up. No, I said calmly. You set yourselves up. I just hit record. A woman in the back stood up. Karen, is this true? He's not part of the HOA, Karen stammered. He doesn't belong here. That's the point. A man next, to her said. You've dragged someone into a war they didn't sign up for. That's not leadership, that's obsession. Another voice. We should vote on removing Karen from the board. Silence. Then hands went up. A landslide. Karen's mouth dropped open. You can't do this. I built this neighborhood. Yeah, a man said, standing up. And for 15 years you've made life miserable for anyone who disagreed with you. Karen stormed out, knocking over a pitcher of water, her blue-stained blazer a retreating battle flag. But it wasn't over. That night I returned home, exhausted, but hopeful. I grilled a steak, sat with Tank, felt a semblance of peace, until I checked my mailbox. Not a note. A dead router. Burned, melted, tossed inside like a warning, and my front gate camera smashed, dangling by its wires. Karen, or someone she'd convinced, had returned. For revenge. This wasn't about Wi-Fi. It was personal. I grabbed my phone, drove back to town, filed a restraining order. Then, I bought a new router, a fortress of technology. I installed it in a lockbox in my attic, and I created one last, unmissable message. My Wi-Fi name, Karen was here, LOL 911, and a second hidden network, untraceable. Trap set for Karen. Within 2 nights, someone fell for it. 1:23 a.m. My motion-triggered spotlight flared. Alarms screamed. Tank barked furiously. On my phone, screen Karen, with bolt cutters, climbing my back fence, and she wasn't alone. Someone with gloves, a backpack, a can of gasoline. They weren't cutting my internet. They were trying to burn my house down. Instinct took over. I hit the emergency alarm trigger. Floodlights, sirens, strobes. The ranch became a blinding, wailing inferno of light and sound. Trespassers detected. You are being recorded. Law enforcement is en route, Karen screamed. Her partner dropped the gas can and ran. Karen tripped, fell into a pile of fertilizer bags, scrambled up, covered in muck, and fumbled over the fence. I was already on the phone with 911. Emergency? 2 individuals just tried to commit arson on my ranch. I have video. One is still. On the property, Tank barked a guttural roar. I watched on the camera as Karen finally tumbled over the fence, leaving something behind. Her phone. Right beside the gas can. Red and blue lights painted the night. Deputy Rollins was first. Brandon, out back? He saw the gas can, the phone, the footage. His eyes hardened. She's done. Felony. I handed him the USB. Everything was there. By sunrise, Karen was in cuffs. Her partner, her nephew, a college dropout. They claimed I was a radiation hazard. Nobody bought it. Charges: trespassing, attempted arson, destruction of property. The story hit the news again, this time with a mugshot, orange jumpsuit. But even with Karen in jail, the war wasn't over. The remaining HOA board panicked. Mr. Larkin showed up, hands raised. "Brandon, I come in peace." He offered a formal apology, dropping all complaints, supporting my exemption from the HOA. "Don't press civil charges," he pleaded. "I saw the footage. I have a daughter who uses Wi-Fi for school. What if someone cut her signal?" It hit home. Freedom, peace. I told him I'd think about it. That night, under the stars, I read the pathetic apology. Then I saw it. A broken piece of Karen's HOA badge in the dirt. Her name, Karen Tisdale. "You messed with the wrong ranch," I whispered, tossing it in the trash. But before the lid closed, my phone buzzed. A new notification. My router's tracker. A connection attempt. The name. Karen's Revenge 911. Still not done. I found the source. A cheap repeater near the abandoned well house, powered by a battery pack, planted. The signal was faint, coming from somewhere near the western edge, tire tracks in the dirt. Fresh. Rick, the drone guy, had been seen near the board president's house carrying something under a tarp. Karen was in jail, but she'd left instructions, a backup plan, a way to keep taunting me. I contacted Emily, at Channel 3 again, told her everything. The repeater, Rick's involvement, the ongoing harassment. "Can we film?" she asked. "No," I replied. "I have something better." I sent her a 7-part YouTube documentary series. When HOA power goes too far, my ranch versus Karen. It went viral. People were outraged, inspired. Comments poured in. HOA Karen is the final boss. Where's the GoFundMe for Tank? Then the twist. A real estate developer reached out, impressed. Wanted to feature my ranch in a documentary about independent living, resisting HOA control. Offered a sponsorship deal. All because I renamed my Wi-Fi to Troll Karen. 2 days later, a car pulled up. An older woman. Tired eyes. Karen's mother. She handed me a letter. Handwritten. "You embarrassed me. Ruined my reputation. But you also made me see how far I'd fallen. I don't expect forgiveness, but I only ever wanted to feel in control of something. Everywhere else I feel invisible. You gave me back my reflection, even if it's ugly. No apology. Just raw honesty. And somehow, it was enough." I folded the letter. Karen's mother drove off. That night I logged into my router. No intrusions, no strange names, peace. I renamed my Wi-Fi one final time. Still not for Karen. And under it, a message for anyone who could see. If you're standing close enough to see this, just know this Wi-Fi ain't free, but kindness is. Ring the bell and I'll give you a password and a cup of coffee. It wasn't about denying connection. It was about setting boundaries. I sat on the porch, watched the stars. No drama, no sirens, no HOA. Just me, Tank, and freedom. But as I closed my eyes, Tank lifted his head. Ears up. Far off, a car engine rumbled, growing louder. Tires on gravel. Headlights cut through the trees, a black SUV, tinted windows, no front plate. Tank growled. I stepped off the porch. The driver's window rolled down. "Mr. Hall?" A man's voice, smooth, steady. "Who's asking?" A pause. "I represent some friends of Karen's, people who didn't appreciate how you made her look." My fists clenched. "You threatening me?" No. A courtesy call. Let sleeping dogs lie. Don't post any more videos. Take down what's out there. Karen's reputation has been damaged enough. You've made your point. You want me to shut up? Another pause. Consider it advice. The window rolled up. The SUV backed away, disappearing into the night. This wasn't just HOA nonsense, this was bigger. Karen had brought in people who cared more about power than rules. I went inside, locked everything, triple-checked the security. The next morning, I filed a report. Sent the SUV footage to the town council, the FBI. I wasn't playing anymore. They wanted quiet. They picked the wrong guy. I doubled down, called Emily at Channel 3, told her about the late-night visit. We filmed in the barn. When she asked what I'd tell others, don't give in, don't shrink back. People like Karen win when you stay silent. Speak up, push back, and set traps. Smart ones. The episode went viral nationwide. Ex-HOA Karen trended. Then, the unexpected, a letter from Rick, torn notebook paper. You win. I never wanted to go that far. Following orders. Karen was obsessed. I'm done. Moving, leaving the board. You'll never hear from me again. I believed him. This was about control. People afraid of the world spinning without them. But Karen was gone. Her supporters were gone. And I had won. I finished the barn, built a greenhouse, a guest cabin. The Wi-Fi worked better than ever. On the last morning of summer, I renamed the signal one final time, Freedom Ranch 911. And the description: if you're standing close enough to see this, just know this Wi-Fi ain't free. But kindness is. Ring the bell and I'll give you a password and a cup of coffee. Not about denying connection, about boundaries. I sat on the porch, smiled, watched the stars. Peace. But as I closed my eyes, Tank lifted his head, ears up. Far off, a car engine rumbled, growing louder, tires on gravel, headlights cut through the trees, a black SUV, tinted, windows, no front plate. Tank growled. I stood up, hand on his back. The window rolled down. Mr. Hall? The same smooth voice. Who's asking? Just checking in, making sure you're reconsidering our advice. I took a deep breath. You know what? I have reconsidered. A beat of silence. Anticipation. Good, the voice said. And I've decided I'm going to keep talking, I said, my voice steady, clear. In fact, I'm going to write a book. About my experience, about HOAs, about people who think they can control others. I'm going to name it Not for Karen. The window slammed up. The SUV peeled out, tires spitting gravel, the sound of acceleration, a furious roar receding into the distance. They wanted me to be quiet, to disappear. But they had underestimated the power of a rancher with a strong Wi-Fi signal and a story to tell. The war wasn't over. It had just moved from my ranch to the world stage. And this time everyone would hear,